Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Welcome back to Dis-Cember 2023. And it's time to start a franchise. Yes. Start a franchise. The Witch Mountain franchise, which I found out actually has 5 movies in it. See, I was going to do the remake, the 1995 television remake, because I'm going to do those TV movies that they did on Wonderful Disney and stuff. The Shaggy Dog and Escape to Witch Mountain, Freaky Friday, and the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. However, I already done the Love Bug one a few years ago. However, I figured if I'm going to do the Escape to Witch Mountain remake, I have the other films. I have Escape to Witch. I have this double feature right here, as you can see. I have Race to Witch Mountain right here. And while doing my research, I found out there's actually another film that came between, well, film, it's only an hour long. That came between Return from Witch Mountain and the remake in 95, and that's called Beyond Witch Mountain. Which, from what I read, acts as a direct sequel to the first one. However, we are here to talk about the original film back in 19... It doesn't say. It's the 1970s, at least, right? And the story revolves around 2 siblings, Tony and Tia. Tony is older than Tia here. They explain that when they were, Tony and Tia Malone, when they were adopted by the Malones, Tony was 5, Tia was 3. Right? And they're returning, I think is what it was, to the orphanage. And this movie goes all over the place, okay? Somebody realized while watching this is like a fugitive movie. These kids are on the run for most of the film. Right? And I didn't realize that. I don't know why. So I have varying degrees of connections with these films. I enjoyed this one. This was pretty good. I remember the second one not being so good. I like the remake. And Race to Witch Mountain is actually pretty good. From what I can remember. Rewatching this one, I enjoyed it. So the story, like I said, Tony and Tia are going back to this orphanage. They're found by a man named Duranian, played by Donald frickin' Pleasance. Yeah, when he came on screen, I went, Dr. Loomis! Maybe the kids will help you find Michael Myers. You can shoot him 6 times. But, yeah, I did not expect him in this at all. And there he was. He plays Mr. Duranian. Unlike in the remake, which we'll talk about later, he's not the main villain. He works for a man named Mr. Bolt. Robert Vaughn's character in the remake is Mr. Bolt, so they take out the middleman with that one. I believe Duranian was a made-up character for this film. They wanted someone to be in between them, I guess. Yeah. The kid's acting, the actor that plays Tony, Ike, whatever his name is decent. Kim Richards leaves a bit to be desired. At times she's okay, but when the film starts, I went, she's a little rough. But she does get better as the film goes on. And later on, Donna Pleasance is pretty good. Right? There's also this bully character at the beginning of the movie named Truck. Yes, that is his name, Truck. When I had to rewind it because when the orphanage lady said it, oh come on, Truck, and I'm like, did she just say Truck? So I rewound it. I watched movies with subtitles in it, but I rewound it. She called him Truck. What kind of name is that? Truck. Who names a kid Truck? Maybe that's where he was born, in a truck, and they just called him that. who knows? But yeah. So the kids go on a little field trip to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. See what you're doing there, Disney. Wink, 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 wink. See what you're doing. And they see Duranian, and Teal warns him. These kids, they have special powers, and like this baseball scene. Okay, I understand this is the part of the film where we show the audience what their powers are. Okay, especially Tony's powers. But they go way too much for it to just be kind of ignored. Truck knows there's something going on, but every other kid is like, oh, okay, that happened. And it's just like, but Tony leaped up really high. He made a bat pop in front of him so that he can get punched by Truck. I mean, he used his powers in front of everyone, and everyone just kind of, goes, except for Truck, who freaks out. Right? But Tia tells Tony, there's something with that car. Something's going to happen to that car. So Tony goes up and talks to Duranian and says, hey, my sister has these feelings, and she feels like something bad's going to happen to that car. And Duranian, kind of feeling a little shook by the situation, is like, I think I'm going to take a walk. Just as he starts to go off, don't you know it, another truck comes by, hits the limo. The driver is fine, but where Duranian was going to sit was, he would have died. From what I can tell, though, the visions are sent to them, I think, by someone else. So why? Maybe I'm thinking of it wrong, but it feels like someone else is telling them stuff, giving them visions. Like maybe they're supposed to stop Duranian from dying, but that just piques his interest. And now okay, so I'm going to compare the remake because I've seen that one a bit more. But in the remake, Mr. Bolt just adopts them. Duranian, however, conjures up this cockamamie story of how he believes they are his niece and nephew, that he lost his niece and nephew 6 years ago, and that he believes that they are them, so he's going to adopt them. Why do you need to come up with this stupid-ass story? Why can't you just say, I want to adopt these children, they saved my life? Who knows? Who knows? But, no. So they go to live with Duranian at Mr. Bolt's house. It's a weird bit of scenes because after that incident with the car happens, he goes back to the house and we get this meeting between him, Mr. Bolt, and a few others talking about stuff. I'm like, what is this? What? Huh? Where does this fit in? Apparently they are looking for people like this. Like they're like a conspiracy group looking for these people. Think of it like Smallville and the Veritas group from season 7 that is mentioned in season 7. They were looking for the Traveler. They're looking for people specifically with these abilities. I know we haven't gotten to season 7 yet. I'm still trying to get to season 3. But, the Veritas group does come in. And, pardon. So throughout the film, Tia keeps getting these memories of being in water and stuff. They start to remember things. Their Uncle Benet, who I was surprised to find out was played by Denver Pyle with no beard. I didn't recognize him at first until he talked a little bit, and there was one line of dialogue where he sounded like Uncle Jesse, and I'm like, Uncle Jesse? It's Denver Pyle with no beard. He looks different without a beard. It doesn't work. Maybe there's some people that don't look right without beards, don't look right with beards, and I'm just so used to him wearing a beard that it just doesn't look like that one. Anyway, you remember their Uncle Benet eventually, but they decide they have to get away from the Duranian Bolt's house. They run off using a horse that Tia has tamed because it's a wild horse, so you know. They also have a cat named Winky because the cat winks, but the effect is not very good because it's the 70s. So there's some effects in this that aren't like dry skin or something, aren't very good. We'll get it when we get to the finale of the film, the climax. We'll get to some shoddy effects or some not very good effects that were fine for the time, but I'm watching this on a DVD, on an HD TV, where everything is enhanced so it looks better, in a Blu-ray player nonetheless, which also enhances it a little bit. Yeah, so you can know some things. Anyway, so they get away and they stow away inside this trailer that is owned by Jason O'Day, played by Eddie Albert. And this is a great character. He's this stubborn, old, curmudgeon guy who's just trying to mind his own business and be on his own. And these two kids pop up and, oh no, I'm not doing this. I love this exchange where he can't find his keys. So he thinks they took them. He's like, I found my keys. And like, if we can get your car to start, we can take us with you. He's like, oh, I see. You took my keys, huh? That's how it is. And she goes, the car will start now. The trailer, the camper will start now, and she starts it up using her powers. And then the cat comes in with the keys, showing him that he did drop them outside, and that, you know, they never had them to begin with. So, yeah. So now he's protecting these kids. And then there's some parts that I didn't particularly care for. The fugitive part where they're being chased by the police and Duranian and Bolt, it all becomes too much of a coincidence. The stuff that happens, the way that stuff just seems to fall in place, and by the end you can kind of say, oh, it's supposed to be that way, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know. It just feels like it all falls in place too much. Like, Duranian contacts the sheriff of the closest town, you know, to help him get these kids. And O'Day says, okay, my brother Hiram lives in this town here. I'm gonna do a little turn, drop you off, and you're gonna go to his cabin and wait for me. And as soon as he lets him off, who's right there? The fucking sheriff. He sees them, grabs them, and takes them to the jailhouse, where he calls Duranian and says they're right here. But they already used their telekinesis, telepithis. Dr. Loomis is in this, so I gotta say that. Telepithis to get out and get away. They eventually reach the cabin, but in the scene before this, we're like, look at everything you know on Jason O'Day. So of course his brother's got a cabin up here, Stone Valley. So of course they find the cabin as soon as they get there. I'm like, really? You mean stop having this? Why? Cute, no. But eventually get away to a place near Witch Mountain. Witch Mountain itself isn't brought up until later, because after they use their powers to scare the sheriff, the sheriff says, oh, they're witches that come from Witch Mountain. And that's where it's really brought up. Is Witch Mountain is brought up as then. So it's never really mentioned until towards the end of the film. But so then Tony calls some random number, and it's who they want to talk to. I'm assuming it's Uncle Benet, maybe, who says they have a plan and to go outside and get into the camper, Mr. O'Day's camper. And so there's now telepathically talking to Tony. And was explained that Tony can make things move by playing his harmonica. He made things move by doing that. And Tia can talk to Tony without moving her mouth, like telepathically. There's that. And so the strange voice man tells them that they can't lose uh, um, Duranian because he's got to see what happens so that he never follows them again. So he throws some flour out to kind of mess with them, and then they go up the hill, the mountain, and eventually they start flying in the camper. And I love there's this shot where they're flying. This is where the effects kind of, the green screen effects, the composite shots, don't look very good. It looks like two composite shots. You have the camper and then you have the helicopter. And helicopter look fine at first, but this is obviously a composite shot where they're taking the two and just putting them on a green screen. And yeah, it's not very good. But eventually the camper looks as if it's upside down. Turns out the helicopter is upside down. No, that's not how it works. You see, the helicopter blades going round and round make it go up. So with upside down, it'd go down. They would crash into the ground and be dead. You know what I mean? That's how it works. They would not be able to just float upside down. Now, you could say, oh, they're using telepathy to do it. But still. Eventually, they get to the Witch Mountain where they got to meet Uncle Benet. And like I said, it's Denver Pyle. And he says, but this doesn't deter Duranian. He still shows up. And he's like, wait till you see where we came in. And then he runs in and a spaceship, a flying saucer comes up. This is supposed to deter Duranian and Bolt. Which, if you follow the sequel film, Return from Witch Mountain, then yes, it does. But if you then follow Beyond Witch Mountain, it does not, because Bolt and Duranian are the villains in that one too. From what I read, I haven't seen it yet. But Eddie Albert comes back in that one. Yeah, when it comes, I'm gonna say it's pretty good. The only thing I didn't really take any care for is the whole, I think they just keep finding them because the movie has to keep going, and that's why. But you could also say, the magical telepathic voice man was setting everything up so they saw it. I don't know. Yeah. This was fun to go back and watch. I want to do more classic movies too. I have a couple more in there. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Treasure Island. That Darn Cat. And Apple Dumpling Gang, to name a few, that I could cover eventually, hopefully, this year. There's other stuff I want to do, but, So what are your thoughts on Escape to Witch Mountain? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.